Well, staying with that story, the social commentator and mentor Rams Mabote has written a stinging open letter to Malcolm Williams, who is the headmaster of Parktown Boys High School. Rams joins me now. He says the principal and school handled the matter badly. He's here in studio to tell me about the letter that he has written. Rams, thanks so much for coming through. The background to this letter, you say you initially gave the school the benefit of the doubt and thought accidents do happen. It's heartbreaking. It's horrendous what happened, but accidents do happen. But your tone has since changed. Let's take a look at an excerpt of what you wrote in that letter about what the school has been saying about that incident. The stories have been inconsistent. The goalposts have moved. The contradictions too many, and blatant lies told. I mean, to lie to the media that Enoch's family could not afford a life jacket when in your memo to parents, which is now public, no one was required to bring their own and no one did. That was low, sir, very low. And it's your letter to Malcolm Williams, the headmaster at Parktown Boys High School. You have a child there. What prompted this letter?
And I think that's the most important part. Didn't write this as a social commentator. I wrote this as a father of a son in that school. He's been there for 5 years. This is his 5th year. And that's where the benefit of the doubt came from. My son has been at that school. I've seen it as a good school. Like any other school, there are weaknesses. There are things that I've never been happy about. But I never thought, when this thing happened, I never thought that the school had bigger problems than what I've now discovered in the last 7 days. And what I've discovered is out there is in public. The stories, as I say, have been very inconsistent. There's been lies, blatant lies. But for me, the saddest one has to be the fact that a young man now has come out to say, but I told the teachers that Enoch is missing on the day. And almost 24 hours later, that's when they start to acknowledge this young man's complaint. That is sad. It's a human being who's just gone missing. It's a child. It's somebody's child. And that got me angry. It could have been my son, who goes to this very same school. I'm not being, I can postulate about being a father. This is a son who goes to this very same schools. And that's where this came from, really.
Yeah.
Until I heard that young man, I kept on saying, I want to hear, I want to hear. And when that young man wrote that letter that was read out in the media yesterday, I thought enough is enough.
So, Rams, this is not the first time that school is in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. Yeah. And we remember that whole situation around the grooming of boys, and you do make reference to it in your letter. But part of what you sum it up, of you summing up what you believe is happening, you talk to issues that you are passionate about, trying to chip away at this culture of toxic masculinity. Let's have a look then at your one of the other, excerpts from that letter. Subsequently, you are reported to have beckoned the boys to not speak about the incident. How tasteless. You asked the boys to participate in a conspiracy of lies, secrecy, and deceit. Is this what you are bequeathing on our boys? So this is pretty strong, Rams. Do you believe this, what happened subsequent to the drowning of Enoch Mpianzi, and the way that the school was dealing with it feeds into a toxic masculinity, what you are trying to chip away at?
But 100%. So at that moment, they forgot about a human being, a child that died, and they thought, how do we cover ourselves up? And in covering themselves up, they then called on the young men, the 200 and something odd boys, to say, you keep quiet about this, you don't talk about it, we will handle it. They called the parents to a meeting on a Monday. They say, you can listen to us, but don't ask questions. And that begins a culture or a process of secrecy and lies. They're hiding stuff. They're teaching young men to lie. That's what they did. They told those young men to lie. They told them, do not tell your own story. Do not tell what you know about what happened there. That is sad. That is not what I want my son to be learning. That is not what this society wants to teach boys. We're already living in a toxic society where men kill, rape, murder. They are corrupt. We're doing all sorts of wrong things to society. You take a kid to school, you don't expect that to be taught to them.
Yeah, and Rams, locate this for me in the context in which Parktown Boys High School has recently come out of the controversies around the water polo teacher and the grooming of boys there and the abuse of boys there. You saying that you had believed that actually the leadership and the people at the school would be the right people to take what is a good school forward and away from that culture. Do you now doubt that?
I'm starting to doubt it. Malcolm Williams, the current principal, came at the time during that grooming saga. And he came out as an upfront, forward human being that said, we got to deal with this thing, I'm not going to protect anyone. And I have to tell you this, the grooming story cuts even deeper. My son participates in water polo. When this story happened, you can imagine the first thing that happened. I thought, had to go to him and said, what happened?
Yeah.
He assured me nothing happened, but up to this day, especially with what I see, I keep on thinking, did they make my son to swear to secrecy about what could have happened or whatever he knows? So when I saw Malcolm Williams coming in 2-3 years ago, I thought, breath of fresh air. Here's a guy who's clean, he does not want nonsense, and then this. I'm not feeling any confident anymore.
Yeah, because that culture of silence was actually spoken to at the time of
At the time, it was the biggest subject at the time, yeah.
Scandal, it really was, yeah.
Exactly.
So, Rams, lastly, the last excerpt I want to bring up is where you're saying, sir, whatever you are not telling us, please know that in his death, Enoch deserved more. He deserved the truth. Even if it is too late, you should have done better. You can still do better. And you talk there about whoever you are protecting. Do you believe that there's an attempt to protect some people? Who's being protected?
They can only prove me wrong, but from where I sit, something went wrong, somebody did not do their duty. They did not even read the roll call. That already is something that is wrong. So somebody did not do, or some people did not do what they had to do. And they protecting those people at the expense of poor Enoch, who's now late. You can't even save him anymore. And the other 200 and something odd boys. And that, for me, said, I think the principal still has a chance to say, we're sorry, we made these mistakes, and this is how we're going to correct it.
Okay, lastly, Rams, there's an extreme voice. And I don't mind saying that. I think it's extreme.
Yeah.
It's calling for the school to actually be shut down, saying that, clearly the school is a problem, shut it down. As a parent of a child in that school who's been there for 5 years, what's your take?
I think it's extreme. I think there is room for action and very strong action, and even if that action means the headmaster must go, so be it. But I don't necessarily believe that you shut down the school. We already have enough problems with admissions. Panyaza will tell you that. Where do I take my son if we shut down the school? Yeah. I think, though, it can be cleaned up.
All right. Rams Mabote, thank you so much for coming through and sharing your experience of this story, which is a national story, but actually has faces and names of people attached to it. That's Rams Mabote there. He's been talking to us about the situation at Parktown Boys High School.